any filmmaker brings in haze and you are legitimizing the shoot.
It's game over. It's like,
you know, and sometimes we overdo it to make sure people know we're real filmmakers.
Right.
So we did that.
Hey, what's up? I'm Vanessa.
I'm Brian.
And this is Behind the Lens, specifically for our basement scene for one of our Portraits and Patriotism documentaries.
The earliest memories, I would probably say about when I was 5. We lived in small, damp basement. Just being in this condition all the time. I was always sick. About 11 families lived on the first and second floor, and the family for my grandma and grandpa were giving a cellar, and you don't choose where you live, you just live where you are told to live. Now, when I would go and visit our neighbors upstairs, it was horror for me.
You know, one of the things that kind of set us in a certain direction, or the biggest challenge on this particular shot and scene, was whether we were going to do this practically or we were going to do it virtually.
Right, yeah, and I really like throwing together these mood boards with just kind of everything that feels like it fits what I'm envisioning, and so that helped me come to a decision on where we were going to shoot, because a lot of the elements I liked in these were just too complicated to do practically and not feasible. So a couple of the things I really liked, like the cement walls in the background showing rafters, also things like these fluorescent lights and steel beam. Like, a lot of these things were just too complicated to create in our own practical set.
Yeah, and we started having our production team go over some of the things in aesthetic based off of what you had here. And as they started doing it, it was immediate that I was like, okay, that's gonna have all of the elements. When we saw just the breakdown, then it was the idea of how can we build those layers to make it feel real. And that's when we really dived into your shot list. And that shot list really did help us quite a bit in our pre-pro and how to go from stage to stage. So this let us know what our background and our world was going to be, but then your shot list was particularly what we were going to put in place cinematically.
This is basically my shot list for the basement scene. I'm not a drawer, so I source images that look like the rough composition and lighting that I'd like for the scene.
And as a crew, we really loved seeing these, because not only are they approximate, and you were very particular about how you wanted it to look and feel, how you wanted the movement, but then we started diagnosing these to the things that you wanted. So the first thing that we diagnosed was these ratios, these highlights versus the dark areas that were very significant. And the first part was in this first block right here, was trying to make sure there was a shaft of light that was only lighting our main character. In this next shot here, we were thinking, okay, cool, she's going to end up being on the ground, and she's just a young girl all alone in this basement. We had to understand what our dynamics were. So the highlight areas here, but in having a little bit that was going right onto the face, but also being able to know that it would have a massive fall off where we go into darkness. And you can also see that really good right here, where the side of this portrait, you have that far side key and that edge happening here, but really quickly you're falling off into that bit of darkness here. So it was awesome to have these in pre-production, because on the day we kind of dialed into exactly what you were hoping to get.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed some of the things that I didn't even notice were a recurring theme in what I was wanting. And so it came out perfectly with our shots, almost like looking shot for shot what I was going for, which is awesome. So another thing I'd like to mention that played into this, that was kind of a decision we had to talk about, was the lens choice. If you'd like to maybe explain a bit how we went about that.
Absolutely. And so if you're looking here, you put a lot of time into, and it's important to do that pre-pro where you're going into the certain color tones that you want, these certain frames that you want. And as we were doing that, we said, all right, now we need to have those layers that are going to make this believable as soon as you see it within frame. And with all the practicals that were factored in, and with the flares that we were hoping to get, immediately it was like, okay, let's see if we can romanticize this with the qualities that come off of an anamorphic lens. And we went with the Veltrox lenses. It's a 235, which also helped us with our real estate. So with shots like this, you're still able to see the ceiling and you still see the vastness of the room. However, you're not, if you're spherical, you're gonna now see the ceiling. You're gonna see so much more of the area, which then could kind of blow up our whole feel and mode.
Going into this first establishing shot, which I feel like really just set the tone for the whole room, which was awesome. And it basically hits every element I wanted in one swoop. So if I know this still of it seems a bit confusing here, but we really wanted to incorporate these beams. So we basically positioned a couple like 4x4s, I think they were, to look like a thicker beam in front of the camera to then reveal our subject.
The beauty of this shot, even though it's a still frame, number one, this shows all the characteristics of the things that you wanted, then the anamorphic qualities, and also because this shot, it was a tracking shot, and the beauty and the thing that was really smart that you wanted to do was to be able to reveal this shot in what felt like, or what was about 3 seconds. In 3 seconds, you see this young girl, you see the feeling of this cold, damp room, and that she's alone, and then the aesthetics of, the room itself. So when Marina is speaking about our subject, it immediately, you're just there. You don't have to see 10 shots that build this up. It's in one shot. So, you're able to see the anamorphic bokeh here and the flare. You're able to, which was really important in our pre-pro and some of your shot list, was have that defined beam. And obviously we had to bring in the haze, and the haze, as soon as you do that, any filmmaker brings in haze and you are legitimizing the shoot.
It's game over. It's like,
and sometimes we overdo it to make sure people know we're real filmmakers.
Right.
So the virtual production was really important because certain things like this stretch of windows here is built in virtual production. The beams that is back here, that's also virtual. So it was really a good mesh, and again, it goes back to those layers. And as long as you can have your virtual production be sound, from that point, you're saying, okay, cool, can we add in a bunch of props? So that way, when you get to our subject, it just shines at that point.
Right, yeah. I'd also like to add, it's very subtle back here, but this table and chairs, but these were practical that we threw in the back there to blend a little bit more, as well as obviously this lamp, desk, light, and treasure chest of a coffee table there. Moving on from this section here, we had the next little, it's almost a scene, but more of a shot to just polish off the whole basement section. And this one was definitely a challenge, but a very fun one that was very rewarding because I feel like nailed what I was going for here.
Yeah, at first we had a little bit of trepidation in terms of, okay, how are we gonna build this set basically from scratch, because this staircase, and we have no idea if in your reference if this was just a physical set that was there and they shot on the day, or if this was built. But for us, every single item that was here was built from scratch. And in fact, the staircase itself was apple boxes side by side that, so right here is like one apple box, and then there's another apple box here. And then we've got these walls that are hung up by combos off to the side, a combo on this side. And, it was a lot, but honestly, it came so close to your reference, and I'm glad that you stuck to your guns on that one, because it really did make the scene feel, it continued that isolation. Right. And we lit this very minimally. It was really just one bulb here, and in the back was a light that was shining in here that was basically that solo light from the basement. So
yeah, and I think also what's fun is just everybody working to put this together and not really being sure how it was going to look, and then everybody takes a step back and they're like, oh, that actually came together nicely.
Honestly, we were very resourceful, and it really does take a village to put these things together, and I thought it was really you know, all of us coming together, like you said, and kind of going off of your reference, which is always important, which fueled this entire production, is kind of the meticulous nature that you put behind knowing what was going to happen before we actually shot. Because otherwise, if we didn't have this reference, I don't know what kind of staircase we would have built up. But, you know, it was really, you know, what you set for us put us in a good forward motion.
Yeah. So overall, the shoot was great. It really felt like a success in nailing what we had planned for, and worked with everybody from virtual production to everybody on set just helping out. It
Absolutely,
was awesome.
absolutely. And honestly, tip my cap off to you. This definitely took the pre-pro to the next level in trying to make sure we can nail our shots. So
that's all for this episode. Thanks for watching.